high above. Fantastic shots here from the drone. And we're about to get underway with our first race of the day. A full race weekend here for the Speed Tour that includes SPRA, Trans Am, Formula 4, Formula Regional, and the Radicals. And coming out of the last turn now, 2 by 2. Looking forward to this. The first of 3 races for the weekend. Up go the revs. And we are racing here at NOLA. Good start from the pole man. Field getting away very well indeed, but as you can see, the massive field of Radicals spreading out as they head down towards that first corner, but it is the pole man, the number 37, John Field, who leads the way. So good clean start. He's already making a couple of places up. So good for him. Somebody going wide there. Taking a little bit of avoiding action perhaps, but back out on track. That's one of the Canadian entries. That's the 57 of Wayne Williams. Actually, that's the USA entry from S's Racing in Austin, Texas. I know those boys well. Spent some time with them. Louis Schreiber going through for Rhino Racing. He's in an SR10, so we've got 3 different categories out here. The Pro 1340s, the Pro 1500s, which is the main category, and the Platinum drivers in the SR10, slightly more powerful, but it's the 37 of John Field in his Platinum SR10, leading the field at the moment. And a good battle starting to form here between first and second. 111 of Louis Schreiber right there with him. And you can see already as they come out of that last corner just how quickly this field has spread out. We've got a group of, 4 at the front, and they've gapped massively the group behind them as they are pushing on now with the more powerful cars. In the background there, the 88 just coming through shot. That's Danny Zielinski in the Wisco Racing USA entry. That's a 1500. That's the first of the 1500s. And he has also gapped those chasing him in the Pro 1500 class. I had a good look at the cars yesterday as they went out, and they're very trick indeed. They've got all the lights, ability to be road cars as well as race cars, but they are purpose-built for racing. And just a really simple dash, but a very modern dash. They've got the flipper gear changing, Hewland gearbox. So it's all state-of-the-art stuff. Whoa. Plenty of room to make mistakes, but also forgiving enough whereby you could be learning without scaring yourself. And now the Platinum class really pulling away at the front, as we'd expected, but it is Field, Miller, and Schreiber. Then comes the 1500 of Deleski, Williams, Dersey, Strauss. A lot of talk about Strauss out there today. She's one of the competitors to become an ambassador for the series. That's Aurora Strauss for One Motorsports, sponsored by Richard Mill. Going well in 7th overall. But look at this racing, great between the 4 of them here in this group. And this is the start of a brand new season here in North America, and it looks as though it's going to be a competitive one. First of the Bacons down there in 15th position in the 999. That's Jace Bacon. Remember, he and his father Seth fighting against each other. They lined up next to each other. There's the 73 of Kevin Portras for Canada in the SR3. And pockets of radical racing all over Europe. Britain, of course, where they're made, and France, Spain, you name it. There's even radical racing in the Philippines, here in North America, and in Canada. And it's just grown exponentially over the last few years. Field now, though, with a 1.6 second lead after 3 laps at the front. And it's Schreiber in third at the moment. Here he is. But it's a good battle for second and third between Miller and Schreiber at the moment. Field, though, has gapped them even further. We'll take a look at the gap as he crosses the line again. Just did so, coming into the first corner. And there's your leader in the 1500 class in what, 4th position overall. Here comes the 57. That's Williams. And then just behind there is Nick Persing in the 19. Now this is an interesting story. Nick Persing for Cameron Racing, also racing in Formula Regional. He's been a multiple winner and podium maker in Formula Regional in the last couple of years in Formula 4. And the tall figure of Nick Persing, great to see him out there trying radicals for the first time, but been doing the whole series, so big move for him. And as you can see, handling it pretty nicely. So he's on double duty this weekend, so he's getting plenty of track time because his qualifying session is shortly after this. So he's certainly getting the time on track. I don't know if the braking points are anywhere near the same, or it helps or hinders his progress in single-seaters, but it's always good to get track time. There's no racing driver in the world that won't tell you that they need track time, and they do. This is great racing, good grip, good downforce levels, but very forgiving, these cars. Persing trying everything. What a nice inside maneuver. Has he made it stick? Whoa, a little bit of touching there. Rubbings Racing, but that was a little tight. And through goes Nick Persing. Well, he made it stick just eventually, and once he got through, he was gone, but it took a little bit of touching for a moment. So down the main straight comes Nick Persing for Cameron Racing. Dane Cameron, another man who's tried radical racing. Coming through shot now, that was the 70. Also in the Pro 1500, that was Aurora Strash. We finally got our first glimpse of her. The 24-year-old. And there's Greg Korski in the 24, getting plenty of attention from Yang just behind him there. And this is the battle for the top 10. Meanwhile, out front, the gap between Field and Miller has grown to, what, 1.8 seconds now. And Miller and Schreiber still involved in their battle for second and third. That, of course, in the platinum field. Now we've got little pockets of racing all throughout this field. Still some 28 minutes to go, though, in this first of 3 races this weekend. There is Field. You can see the gap between first, second, and third. So the real battle for the overall race is between second and third. Here it is, between Miller and Schreiber. Miller trying every which way to get past him, but he can't find a way at the moment. Meanwhile, the 500 of Alan Miller. Trying to keep Louis Schreiber ahead of him as honest as possible. Rhino Racing versus One Motorsport. We've got several entries from One Motorsport, several entries from S's Racing in Austin, Texas. So each of the radicals has 2 or 3 teams that they enter. Coming through shot now, Danny Deseski in the Wisco Racing team for the USA. Nice colours. This is the Blue Marble Radical Cup, Race 1. Now, interesting on my readout, it tells me that Field has dropped to 4th and Wagner now leading. Well, I'll be interested to see if that's the case. No, it does say Field is now leading the way. Wagner is in 6th place in the number 8, in fact. I think that's more correct. Scott Wagner of S's Racing. Yeah, they prepare several of these cars at S's Racing in Austin, Texas. Great company. Dave O'Neill, former Formula One team manager, part of that group. So Field extending that lead over Miller to 3 seconds. Miller and Shriver still battling though for 2nd and 3rd. And then we've got a good battle starting to form up for the 1500 class, the Pro 1500 class, involving this man, Nick Persing, who's got some clean air ahead of him. Now he's got ahead. Had a nice little battle earlier on, but even though there was a bit of fisticuffs and a bit of rubbing, he managed to come away unscathed. But he is currently 6th overall. And behind him is 7th place Williams in the number 57. Looking at him now on screen. It's a great little battle. Look at that 5-way battle there. And we head a little bit further back now to take a look at some of the other battles going on. And one of the Americans coming into shot. Bouncing over the curbs nicely. Nice to be precise as well, though. That was Seth Braken, I think, just coming through. But look at this way. 4-way battle here between them. Coming out of the last turn and onto the main straight. This should sort them out. Great heat-hate shot here as they come flying towards us, led by the number 17 of Aurora Strauss. She's trying to hold them all off, but look, they're all spreading out, trying to get past her, and into the first corner she does get overtaken. Or does she? Oh, drama! 2 cars going off, and he made the overtake past Strauss. She survived, but 2 cars involved in an incident, and that could well bring out the safety car. Well, getting through there unscathed, Robert Soroka. And also continuing, 999, that's Jace Bacon, who's now been caught by this other group. There's Jace. And there's the 20 of Austin Riley in the blue and Dayglow yellow. Can't miss him. Now the question remains, will they get the damaged cars out of the way before the end of this lap? So far so good, no safety been called just yet. And the battles continue. In the thick of that one, the 94 of Robert Soroka for Rijspec, a Polish driver, the only Polish driver. Down the main straight comes the 19. Persing leading this group. Wayne Williams in a battle with the 24 of Greg Gorski. Different categories, but they're now starting to integrate, if you will. Somebody else skidding out there. We just missed it off camera there. Can hear it though. So there's some drama. Yeah, I can see it on the infield there from the drone. One car's gone off into the grass, spun it round, and it's stuck in the grass at the moment. Now he gets it going again. He's got some cars coming up on him. Let's hope he doesn't get stuck there. He's out of harm's way, I may add. Now, here comes your leader by some 3.5 seconds now. And Miller with his arm out of the car. Schreiber still behind in third. That may be to warn of a safety car coming out. Yeah, well, or at least of that accident. That's where they're going past now. So we are under caution, no surprise. Under caution now here in this first of 3 radical races. So once again, this will change the picture here for sure. Now, I mentioned earlier that we might have a guest, and we do. He's been down on the grid making sure everything got underway, because of course that's the busiest time, is the first race of the weekend. After that, everybody sort of gets the hang of it, and it kind of becomes sort of natural to get where you're supposed to be. But the first race, first day of the year, as it were, everybody's back to school. But I'd like to introduce the Global Motorsports Director, Tom Drewer. We got a good start there. We got some good battles going on. How are you?
Absolutely. Look, it's just great to be here at NOLA Motorsports Park and back racing with the Blue Marble Radical Cup for season 2023. And as you mentioned, what a great start. I mean, it's been a great weekend. So we had this amazing qualifying session in the rain. Everyone behaved so well, and to get through that green to checker was unbelievable. And already some strong battles, as you mentioned. John Field, the veteran prototype master, doing the business at the moment. But I'm really interested to see Duchelski versus Persing, 2 young guns that just seem to have an edge over the rest of the Pro 1500 field at the moment.
Now listen, I'm glad you're here because I've got questions, and I know the audience does, because I'm coming new to radical racing. I'm aware of what radicals are. I'm from Great Britain. I know all about radicals in terms of watching them growing up, but I've never been around them at close quarters. Tell me, first of all, I want to know about the drivers and I want to know about the categories. Can you explain the 3 different categories we've got out? You just mentioned the Pro 1500, but we've got 2 others as well.
Sure. International Radical Cup racing is unapologetically Le Mans style racing. It's multi-class. We are preparing these drivers to go off and do bigger and better things, and a lot of them do, hence why we're seeing a number of young guns come into the series now. Of course, a lot of gentleman drivers coming up through our ranks, and for those that follow international motorsport, John Fowl was a good example of that. Started his life as a gentleman driver racing at Spring Mountain Country Club in Nevada, and all of a sudden, after working his craft in the Radical Cup, he's running Le Mans every year, running the European and Asian Le Mans series. So you can very much start your motor racing career in these radical cars, and the cars themselves really do suit that. They're extremely confidence-inspiring. There's a lot of mechanical grip, but a full aero car as well. So you really got the best of both worlds there. And I always like to think aero is a bit of a drug. Once you try an aero car, it's hard to go back to just a big lump of GT car. And you can see there on screen, big front splitter, big rear diffuser, big rear wing, of course. And these cars produce a hell of a lot of downforce. In terms of the classes, you'll notice on the rear wing and indeed the front splitter, 3 different colored stripes.
Yep.
In theory, the slowest class is the 1340cc class, dictated by the green on the rear wing. Pro 1500 also uses an SR3 chassis, the same as the 1340, but with a 1500cc engine. And that class just seems to grow in popularity. Interestingly enough, the 1340s are very prevalent at a lot of the country clubs where radicals are also prevalent around the country. Apex, up in Chicago at Autobahn, Atlanta Motorsport Park. So we've got these cars everywhere, and then Platinum is really for all of our big cars. And historically, that's included the 600 horsepower RXC and the Spider variant, but now with this SR10, that's the car to have in this class. And perfect example on cue, John Field in the 37 SR10, 425 brake horsepower, 380 foot-pound of torque from a 4-cylinder Ford EcoBoost engine, all developed in-house back at Peterborough. And I think the lights are off on that safety car, are they?
Well, we'll soon find out, that's for sure, because if he does come in, we'll be racing again.
No,
he's
still on. So,
well, that brings me to another question. One thing I noticed looking at the cars yesterday, before the rain I may add, but everybody was just sat there getting on pre-grid. You've got the Hewland gearbox, you've got the paddle shifting, you know, you've got all the mod cons, as it were, of a you know, state-of-the-art racing car, and yet the price point is comparatively reasonable. If you want to go racing, like you say, from the start, is that really the attraction? Is that, you know, I'd love to go racing. When you gave me a Porsche, I'd go nuts, but I'd probably crash it as well, and then give myself $60,000 worth of damage.
As you say, motorsport isn't the cheapest of pursuits, but absolutely, look, these cars are the best bang for buck, if you like, that you can get. The performance level rivals that of GT3 cars. It's certainly an SR3, certainly a lot quicker than a GT4 car, yet you can go and run one of those cars with dramatically more performance for much less money. Very reliable car. Radicals are very sophisticated, as you mentioned, where they need to be. We run a full LMP2 style life ECU, paddle shift with an auto cut on the upshift and auto blip on the downshift. Lots of little sophisticated aids to help ensure that you don't over rev the engines and all those kind of things. But
that's an important point too, with the auto shift and so on and so forth. You're not thinking about, oh, you know, heel toe, blah, you know, you're not thinking about some of the more sophisticated racing sides. You're literally just changing down gears, changing back up gears, and finding the right price point, as it were, or the right rev point to go racing and you know, hit the gas at the right time.
And at the end of the day, that's what all of the cars that you're going to drive above Radical have too. So again, it's preparing the driver for what they're going to expect, whether it's an LMP3 car, LMP2 car, or even the very, very top tier GT cars. So it's a very, very good platform for preparing drivers. A lot of young kids looking at this series as an alternative to F4, FR, Persing as an example, Duchelski another, young Austin Riley, of course, in the 1340 class, Robert Soroka, Aurora Strauss. It seems that we continue to attract a lot of young guns, but again, a lot of, and I hate the word gentleman drivers, because these guys, once they get in the car, they're not gentlemen.
No, of course.
You know, they race fierce, but guys that are coming to the sport a little bit later in life also attracted to these cars because they are a great alternative to the Porsche programs and Ferrari programs, etc.
Before we go racing again, you talked about Aurora Strauss. Tell me, she's been in the headlines.
Absolutely. We just announced that she's now a brand ambassador for Radical Motorsport globally. Excited to have her on board for that, but also in this championship. And she was unbelievable in yesterday's qualifying session. Nearly put it on pole in the 1500 class. Just unlucky not to hold on to that spot. And it looks like we're going green again. Al Miller was using all the track as he exited that final corner here at NOLA Motorsports Park.
This is his best chance to catch John Field as they head down the front straight. You're listening to Tom Drewer and Jonathan Green here as we bring you the first Radical Cup race of the year, the Blue Marble Radical Cup, and already, that's the 57 getting in trouble
that
there.
was Mr. Williams, and he's a brand new competitor to the Radical Cup. series, and he enjoyed the conditions yesterday in qualifying. He's used to driving sprint cars and said in the wet, these big torque monster SR10 machines are just that. They're like sprint cars. But now in the dry, he's struggling around some of these faster Pro 1500 machines. Greg Gorski in the Smoke Buddy machine trying to get onto the back of Jachelski, who is behind Persing now. So that's
almost
change.
Lost it there.
And that's a change for position of the lead. So the 88 has fallen back one. Jachelski now running second. And Louis Schreiber will be another one to watch, sitting third in the 111 machine. He was very racy last year and over the back of the 500. But Jachelski keen to get back into P1. Nick Persing, this is his debut in the series and has done a fantastic job. There we go, the 500 of Al Miller hunting down John Fielder. It looks like Louis Schreiber, we just mentioned him before, the curse of the commentator, Schreiber in the 111 slow.
Yeah, he slowed right off because before this caution, before you got here, the battle was really between Schreiber and Miller for second and third. But now, as you can see, Field and Miller going at it, and Schreiber's dropped off. Meanwhile, the other battle is now catching them.
And really, this is putting a huge cat amongst the pigeons with the Pro 1500s, because Schreiber's just made a meal of that beautiful three-way battle. And in fact, Jachelski now coming under pressure from the 24 of Gorski. So whilst Persing has got the lucky break with the multi-class racing, it's Gorski who's going to have a crack at Jachelski in the 88.
Great racing here for the Radical. Almost the caution flag because of the crash we had in Field has actually spiced things up nicely, as we hoped they would. But Field still leading, but the gap that was 3.5 seconds is now down to less than a second to Miller in second. Persing now up in the 1500 class to third place. Schreiber drops to fourth, and as you say, Gorski trying everything and every which way to get into fifth place at the moment.
And I'm just looking a little bit back further in the pack to see who's leading the Pro 1340 class, and that's Jace Bacon in the 999, and he's right in the thick of the Pro 1500 classes. In fact, he's got the 2021 1340 champion behind him, Mike Anzaldi, now running in 1500s, and a lot of guys stepping up to Pro 1500 this year. And a pass we can see further back in the pack, and just ahead, or just behind that car was, I think that was Riley, young Austin Riley in car 20, a very distinct blue and yellow livery there, very, very bright on the racetrack. But a strong field, we could hear a bit.
Somebody locked up coming out of one, or into one, I should say.
And you can see on screen there to the inside of the track, just coming back now, is Austin Riley weaving around a little bit. He's under pressure with a 27 behind him of Reed Stewart. Aurora Strauss keeping a couple of drivers at bay, and there's our leader in Pro 1340, the 999, Jace Bacon, his debut in the series, with father Seth Bacon behind.
Yeah, I saw them lined up together, Bacon boys. I loved it yesterday, and somebody else spinning out.
Reed Stewart, so our rookie of the year from a couple of years ago. Reed Stewart just having a moment there, but Reed was impressive last year, and I gotta say, he has come on as a driver. It's a great example of being a novice almost to motorsport, jumping into the Radicals and immediately being around all of these competitive drivers and quickly stepping up the personal performance.
And I guess what you're saying also, or what I'm reading into this, is that you could start off in 1300s and stay within the Radical fraternity, if you will, and go all the way up to platinum before you want to venture out of that, which gives, you know, a sense of comfort that you're in a, you know, in a group of people that you trust and know and have raced against before, and you're just going to progress bit by bit, and they'll tell you when you're ready to go up to the next level, right? Absolutely.
And not only that, you can start locally, start at the country club, start with SCCA or NASA racing locally, step up to the big Blue Marble Radical Cup National Series, and then of course race around the world as well. We have series all around the globe, whether that's in the UK, throughout Europe, in the Middle East, Asia, Australia.
So 14 championships, something like that?
14 championships, and a World Finals, our inaugural World Finals last year at Spring Mountain. Numerous nationalities, a big grid of 36 cars, and for inaugural World Finals, it was just amazing to see huge talent from across the globe, and we're looking forward to announcing the venue of this year's World Finals soon.
So some great racing here with 16 laps gone, the clock ticking down in the first of 3 races here in the Blue Marble Radical Cup.
A couple of Canadians duking it out there on screen. Robert Soroka ahead of Riley. And that's pretty racy there as well, with the number 09 of Elaine Dursey from Spring Mountain. And he is all over the back of Wayne Williams.
I love these great pockets of racing. It doesn't matter where you are on the field, you're in a battle.
And you can see on Wayne's car, that's the brand new cockpit safety device, almost like a halo on these cars, and a lot of drivers electing to run that now.
Yeah, that's an interesting ad, isn't it?
Dursey going for a big move, and you could hear under brakes more squealing of the tyres, the Hankook tyres, as Al Miller runs a little bit wide. But interestingly enough, that means that Miller's fallen way back because he was behind or just in front of Greg Gorski. So John Field all by his lonesome now out in the lead. Louis Schreiber, after having a little bit of car trouble perhaps, sits in second.
Yeah, he's a long way off John Field, who's kind of just got back to where he was before, but increased that lead. Schreiber's still second. Zaleski, how do you say it? Dechelski, that's it, in third at the moment, and then Persing, who we're looking at right now.
And Dechelski has got back ahead of Persing. So lots of switching up there at the front.
Great. But this is Nick Persing. I know him well, and he's going to be loving this, doing double duty. But he is right in the thick of it and looking for a podium and a win in 1500.
And this is really a battle not only of young guns, but 2 different variants of the SR3 1500. So Persing in the brand new, in fact, it was only delivered from England to the racetrack on Tuesday, a direct flight from England for the number 19 machine, and that's the brand new XXR SR3, the latest iteration of 20 years of development, if you will, of the SR3 against the slightly older model that Jachelski's running, the SR3 XX.
Well, I'm sure there's a few people tuning in on the live stream wondering how they can get involved in this, and I know you can literally go down to your local track, like you say, or a private circuit even, and hire a Radical and get some lessons and so on. Where else are you going? Where else are you traveling to? Because you've got some iconic circuits.
This series has just come on leaps and bounds, and we've been so proud to continue to grow it, to continue to foster the competitive nature of it. And we're delighted to join IndyCar 4 times this year. We'll be at Barber Motorsports Park next. That's the first, and we're back on a full course caution, it would appear. So Barber, and then Road America. Then we're off to the streets of Toronto. First time for a street race in Radical Cup history.
Wow.
Then we're going to be joining our fellow USAC series, the Porsche Sprint, and also the roads, some of the Road to Indy series at COTA, and finish the year, the finale with IndyCar at Laguna Seca. So it's an epic season, and fantastic to start, of course, here with the Speed Tour this weekend. What an amazing event. I can't believe the sea of people that continue to stream through the gates, the atmosphere at this racetrack with the autocross going on, the car show, everything that's happening this weekend. SVRA, Barilla Motorsport Holdings, SCCA Pro just putting a fantastic event on this weekend.
So there you go. That's your leader Bacon in the 1340 cars. Coming through shot there. So,
well, and
oh no, is that Jason? Sorry, that's Seth, isn't it?
Well, that is Seth, and so that's another change of leader. So the old man will be happy because he's ahead of his son, although I just wonder if that may be one of the cars we've lost in this caution period.
Ah, good point.
Because the 999 was leading that class, and so that would be a tough one, wouldn't it? You're obviously be concerned about your son, but you're also happy that you're now P1.
Well, as you can see, they're about to pick up the safety car and things slowing right down. There's John Field leading the way. And behind him, Schreiber, who's made up that 10 seconds now. He'll be happy with that. Tuchelski in third place, but leading in the 1500s ahead of Persing. He'll have one more crack, maybe. Let's hope we don't finish under caution because we'd like to see a nice little one-lap sprint if we can. Miller in the 500 is just behind him. And then it's Gorski, Williams, Dursey. Strauss now back up to 9th position. She dropped a few places, but in that incident, I think she made a few up.
And look, this is a long championship, 18 races. Of course, yes, you can gain a lot of points today, but you've just got to work out what you can take home as well. Bank for that championship haul. And the other thing we need to check out, and to explain to those guys that are watching around the world on the live stream, or if you're watching here at the racetrack, the fastest lap times of today's race set the grid for race 2. The fastest lap times for race 2 set the grid for race 3.
I see, yep.
So it's important not only to try and gain track position on your fellow competitor and finish as high as possible, but it's really important to bank a fast one somewhere within this motor race. And you know that there's probably drivers communicating with their crews at the moment saying, where am I? What are my fastest laps? What's happening out there? How am I positioned to for this afternoon's race? And if I quickly look, certainly John Field has set the fastest time in Platinum, so he'd be on provisional pole.
While we've got the caution, quickly tell me more about the Persing car, because obviously if it's brand new off the shop floor, as it were, or it's just been made, what, if any, differences are to that car, the latest car, are there than previous iterations?
Well, quite a few. I mean, on the surface, it looks very similar to its predecessor, the XX, but under the rear cowling is a brand new 4-cylinder Radical Performance engine. Now, this is derived from a motorcycle power plant, but completely redeveloped in-house, and actually features a completely different induction and injection architecture from its original motorcycle engine. Very different from the previous iteration of engine.
And has it always been
developed.
one mark of motorcycle engine, or is it?
Correct, yes. But again, Radical doing everything in-house. And so a little bit more horsepower, about 10 more horsepower on the dyno. It's interesting to see how that translates. Different brake package and upright package. The braking performance on these cars also aided, if you will, with this new variant, the XXR, with a nicer sequence, if you like, in the downshift programming that we have on the engine. So it's a fully integrated, obviously, gearbox and engine, being a motorcycle-derived power plant. But we work with Life Racing to program the ECU to manage all of that.
So I'm now getting the hang of this, because I've been in motorcycle racing for a long time. Basically, you've got a compact but very powerful engine. That gives you power to weight ratio. Also, the reliability of a motorcycle-based engine is also very good, and you're not dealing with having to put a V6 in there and so on and so forth. And so there's a lot of reasons, as the checkered flag comes out for John Field, for this to be the price point that it is. So I'm getting my head around Radicals, and so too is John Field, because he's just taken the win ahead of Schreiber, and it looks as though Tuchelski has beaten Persing in the 1500 class. Am I right?
I think so. He has done it. So the young gun that finished runner-up, if my memory serves correct, in 1500 at the World Finals, has just won his first Blue Marble Radical Cup North America race. And great success for the Wisco team.
Yeah, confirmation then. John Field with the win for One Motorsports, and leading and winning in platinum ahead of Rhino Racing's Louis Schreiber. Danny Dichelski, I got it right eventually, for Pro 1500. He wins in that for Wisco Racing. Then Nick Persing for Cameron Racing. Alan Miller is 5th in the 500. Greg Gorski, 6th. Wayne Williams, Alan Dursey in 8th position. Aurora Strauss, who we were talking about earlier, rounds out or just gets into the top 10 in 9th position. And Mike Anzaldi gets 10th for Rhino Racing. So a good start to the weekend. Now, what will they do? Obviously, they finished under caution, but what will they do now, Tom, to change or mess with the cars? Or is there very little they need to change?
No, look, the cars have got a lot of adjustments from three-way dampers, obviously.